Yo, what's going on, guys? So this is gonna be kind of an addition to the tier 2 preparation. Not that I would change anything about that video or I guess contradict that video, but everything is changing with Throne and Liberty when it comes to its market, and everything is changing when it comes to grinding this game. So these are gonna be some important things. Well, technically it's gonna be one important thing that has to do with blessing stacking, but either way, we'll jump into that. But before we do that, I just want to remind you guys we are doing a 1K sub giveaway, so make sure you guys drop a sub, leave a comment, leave a like. It is absolutely free and it really does help the channel out. We really want to give back to you guys. Once we hit 1K, that will be possible, so please make sure you guys drop a sub. It is absolutely free. But let's jump straight into it. So as many of you guys know, I said in my Talandre and tier 2 gear prep that I personally do not want to do blessing stacking, and technically speaking, I would rather not do blessing stacking. I would rather be selling my gear for Lucent. However, if you take a look at the good old auction house, we can see all the prices for all these different things and how cheap they actually are. If we look at Nirma's sword, it has finally come below 1,000 Lucent. And if we look at a dentist, I'm pretty sure the last time I saw it, it was under 5. It is 3,000, and probably by the time next week's videos come out, it'll be close to 1,000. So basically, all these gear are basically worthless at this point. There are a couple things that you could sell again for 100. Like obviously, you're gonna want to sell the dentist greatsword, Nirma, anything basically over, I think it's 80. Lucent, you're making some money, but it still doesn't feel good when you could sell things for 300. So this is where this comes in. Since things are becoming so cheap, it is now actually becoming more viable to actually blessing stack. Now, again, I will say this, I will caveat this, and I'm not contradicting myself. If it is worth selling, sell it for Lucent. Sell it for Lucent. Lucent is still king in this game. You want to make the most amount of Lucent you possibly can, but we are going to be starting to blessing stack because it will eventually save you money. So I'll explain exactly the reasoning why behind this. So if we come take a look at my storage right now, I have 2 of my weapons on both of my characters completely done and completely blessing stacked. There's nothing I need to do with them, and I'm starting to do the same thing for the rest of these. And the reasoning why is if you get a blue, that's 40 blessing, and you need around 7,000 blessing to fully max out a new piece of gear at tier 2. And the reasoning why, again, it's technically 8,000, but if you put 7,000 here and then use your other piece of gear to blessing stack, then it'll be 7,000. But either way, doesn't really matter at the end of the day. 7,000 will be more than enough, even if you don't use the gear that you're currently using right now to blessing stack, just because 70% is basically a guarantee blessing or trait increase. But again, if a blue costs 10 and it's 40, that's a 1-to-4 ratio as it goes for blessing. And let me take a look at my notes here real quick, just because it's quite a bit. I did 3 hours of math on this the other day, and oh boy, was it not fun. But if we take a look, and I did the math on this, if you do an entire set of gear for each character as so long, and by the way, this is the caveat, so long as the traits and basically everything cost like 300 Lucent per, I'm pretty sure per character, it's going to cost you 45,000 Lucent if you were just buying it out with Lucent. Now, if it costs more than 300 Lucent per trait and all that good stuff, obviously it's going to be more. So if it costs over 600 or 900 or even 1,200, it's going to go up like exponentially with that. So as we know, 300 Lucent, that's basically when it sort of stabilizes for the gear. Obviously right now people know that tier 2 are coming out, so it's people don't really care how much it sells for because everybody either has their gear or they're waiting for tier 2, so that's why it's below 300. But 300 is roughly where it's going to end out, but when it first starts, it's not going to be 300. It's going to be extraordinarily expensive. So if you do the math out, 45,000, but it's going to be a while to get there. Now, why is this important, you may ask? Well, beyond just tying into the tier 2 prep, it's so important to be ready to go day one, not because you don't want to enjoy the game. And again, this video is made for casuals, but this is my warning to you casuals as it goes. If you guys have seen how to get more field boss loot, you guys know the better your gear, the better your build, the more likely you are going to get a drop. Now you can see where I'm going with this. If you're not prepared day one of tier 2 gear coming out and Talandre coming out, when the new field boss loot comes out, when the new arch boss loot comes out, when all this stuff comes out, you're competing with people who have already prepared for this update, who will basically within the first 3 days have a entire build going, and you will never, and I mean never, be able to get a field boss drop unless you do this. Now, there are ways to go about it casually where you technically don't need to be ready right off rip, like you get on the game and bam, you're done. But you still want to be doing certain things to position yourself in the best way possible to be able to get Lucent, to be able to get gear, to be able to get everything. And we're going to be going over different ways to go about it casually, without stress. And also, this way you'll be able to save Lucent in the future. Not only make it, but save it at the same time. So we're going to be going over that right. So as I said before, the ratio for this is like a 1-to-4. In reality, it is technically a 1-to-2 ratio. So every piece of blue gear that you get, you're basically saving 20 Lucent. And if you do a token burn with like 20,000 Abyssal Contract tokens, you can basically save yourself like 500 to 1,000 Lucent per run. And if you do that twice or 3 times a week, that's going to be 1,000 to 1,500 Lucent of value every single week. And or if you do that on multiple characters, it'll be a little bit more. Now, obviously, this is just going to be the baseline. This is just going to be the baseline level. You're off of the blues. If you get purples in there, number one, that'll help you with the actual blessing stacking, which again, I will also be going over how you do it after, but this is just going to be the explanation of why you're doing it. You get purples, it'll help you get the blessing stacking you need on them, but also a purple is worth 100 blessing instead of 40, so it's 2.5 times the amount of a blue, i.e. if technically speaking, if you were to get a purple at 25 Lucent, it would be the equivalent of buying a blue at 10. So, but yeah, that's a whole nother thing. Either way, if you're able to do the open world dungeon token burns, if you're able to do the co-op dungeons, basically all that stuff, I think I calculated, you're basically getting, if you have one character, it's going to be roughly 9,000 blessing a week or something like that. If you have 2, for me personally, I think I've done the math and it's going to be around 18,000 blessing, sorry, not Lucent, blessing that you're saving out on. And that's at least in the beginning. Eventually later on, it'll be a little bit easier. But you will basically be saving, say it's 18,000 a blessing a week. What you're gonna do is you're gonna divide that by 2, because that's basically what it is. You're basically saving yourself 9,000 Lucent a week, at least with 2 characters. It does cost 90,000 Lucent, so it's gonna basically take 10 weeks, at least in my calculations, at the most, to get this. So this is the reason why you want to do it. If you're saving 9,000 Lucent a week just by saving your gear and putting that into the tier 2, I think anyone would want to do that. Now, the final thing before we get into how it is done, I'm going to give you some places that you can farm certain pieces of gear. That'll make it just a little bit easier. You'll save a lot more. So as it goes for Silius Abyss over here, if you do some farming in here, you will get a ton of rings and a ton of necklaces from Silius Abyss. I personally do the Abomination farm, and I get like 10 to 15 either rings or necklaces. Technically, it'll be a little bit more, but just per, it's like 10 to 15 rings and then 10 to 15 necklaces per token burn. This will allow you to put it into rings, and as you guys know, jewelry obviously is way more expensive than weapons or gear, so it's going to be nice to do that. Now, as it goes for crypt, this is probably going to be the one that you're going to be in the most, because belts and capes are the most expensive now. You'll get a ton of blue and purple belts and capes from crypt, and then as it goes for the island, it's going to be the last place you want to farm. Island is going to be for bracelets. This will get you your blue bracelets. You'll be able to farm this out, put blessing on your purple bracelets. So now, how does blessing stacking work? Finally, we get to this portion of the video. Basically, what you're going to do is, as we're just going to use this as an example, you have your ring. you have one perk on it, or one trait on it, I should say. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get 3 traits on it. Now this could be done naturally. You can get, say, if you have an etch alabaster, even though I wouldn't recommend doing it, I would only recommend doing it on the cheapest things. But say you have max health and then you want to put on petrification chance or something, and then whatever else, then you make this a 3 stack, and then all the rings that have the ability to get either max health, petrification, or whatever, let's just say it's skill damage, you put blue skill damage boost in here, buff duration, you put blue in there, all that good stuff. And as it goes up, you'll get blessing. Now on this I only have 40, but on my other stuff that I'm currently doing right now, it's going up and up and up. And as I said before, technically speaking, you can use purples. Purples count as 100. Well, technically it's going to be a little bit more when you transfer it over, but for the sake of the argument, they are 100. If you want to make it quicker, it will cost more in the long run, but it'll make the blessing stacking quicker. You can put purples into here once you have all the purples that you need. So you have 2 weapons, 2 rings, all that good stuff. You can then start putting the excess purples in that do not sell. But blues are going to be the way to go, and you're just going to basically max this out. The max you can get, technically speaking, is going to be anywhere from 2,000 to 4,000 blessing, depending on how lucky or unlucky you are when it comes to RNG. But then once you're done with this, what you're going to do is you're going to have an extra ring that's like basically nothing, and you're going to take, say, this ring, you're going to come over to the transfer, you're going to transfer the blessing from ring 1 to ring 2, and say you got 4,000 blessing, then it's going to go into the new ring at 4,000 blessing, and then you're just going to rinse and repeat until you're at 7,000. Now if you're unlucky, you get 2,000. It's going to take like 3 rings or whichever you're going to do, but for the sake of the argument, it's a ring. You're going to take basically 3 rings to get 1 ring's worth of blessing, and you're just going to continue to do this for all your pieces of gear until every single one of them is at roughly 7,000 blessing. Now, I'm going to caveat this video one final time that everything and anything is subject to change after while this video is being made. So when this video does end up being released, it'll be after Tico talks, and there might be a roadmap where it says that, oh, tier 2 gear is going to be trickled in starting in a week's time or something. And even still then, I still would recommend you do it this way, because again, it will be cheaper to do it this way. And not to mention, at least in my scenario, most of my tier 2 gear is going to come out of Talandre, not tier 2 dungeons or even the open world dungeons right now. So what I will most likely end up doing in order to prepare myself the best will be when tier 2 gear, or if tier 2 gear, I should say, starts trickling slowly, I'm going to capitalize on how much Lucent each of these things are going to cost, and then I'm going to sell them and put them into this gear, and then try to save all the Lucent I possibly can for when these things start releasing. They are going to be extraordinarily expensive, and they will stay extraordinarily expensive for a while, because we still don't know about either tier 3 gear or if it'll be legendary, all that good stuff. We don't know. So I'm basically going to be selling anything that I possibly can that's worth selling, that's not in my gear, so that when my gear does come out, I will be right, ready, and prepared for all this stuff. And again, I must caveat this. This is for casuals. And yes, casuals, you should be doing this, not because you want to take the fun out of the game, but if you want to be able to make the most Lucent possible, if you want to be able to do all the different content without some, I guess there's no other way to say it, scummy elitist asshole kicking you out of a group, I would recommend you doing this. And it also saves you Lucent, it saves you time, and you don't need to try hard this. You can do this as slow as possible. Any blue is basically worth saving. You don't need to start spending all your Lucent. Personally, I have. Again, I don't really consider myself a tryhard. I don't know if I would consider myself a casual, but maybe somewhere in between a casual that just plays this game a lot. But either way, this will save you out a lot of time, a lot of energy. It'll basically just make your life on Throne and Liberty way easier. Hopefully this guide was able to help you understand the reasoning for blessing stacking. Again, I personally am not the kind of person who enjoys this. It's way overly complicated. It's not, I guess I would say it's not a fun system to have to deal with. But again, everything changed so quickly. Like 3 weeks ago, things were selling for like 3, 4, 500 Lucent, and now they're selling for like 50 Lucent. So everything is changing. That's basically the reasoning why I'm making this video. I want to make it as easy as possible for casuals to succeed in this game. I don't want to see them suffer. And again, I know I've seen so many videos and so many comment sections about blessing stacking where people are just like, ah, I'm not going to worry about it, yada, yada, yada. And I 100% agree. Like, if you take anything away from this video as a casual, it's going to be, it doesn't need to be a try hard thing where you're constantly, oh, I need to do this to min max, yada, yada, yada. This is just a suggestion to you guys that if you guys get blue gear, instead of either putting into the material transmutation for the less than 1% chance to get the band of universal power, or scrapping it entirely, you use it for something good, because you're still going to get blues, you're still going to get dog shit purples. You might as well use it for something of value. But anywho, that's going to be the end of the video. So make sure you guys drop a sub, leave a comment, leave a like. We are doing that 1K sub giveaway, so we want to do that as soon as possible and give back to you guys. Seriously, you guys are absolutely amazing. Thank you guys so much for the love and support on all my videos recently. It is absolutely amazing, and it fills my heart with so much joy. Thank you guys so much. But other than that, that's about gonna do it. So I hope each and every one of you guys has a wonderful, wonderful day. And as always, take care, and I'll talk to you guys later.